Hello everybody, it's Foo here, and today I'm joined by a very esteemed guest, which is Joey, aka Pokeaim, who I've been watching for years, and I think he's an awesome creator. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. Yo, what's up, guys? You got Pokeaim here. I play competitive Pokemon on my channel, and I'm focused on teaching as well as a mix of entertainment. I play every tier, so it doesn't really matter from OU to ZU, I guess, when we're talking about Walrein, and as well as in-game. So this should be a lot of fun. I've also been watching Foo for a while, and I love what you do here on the channel, so I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and we are going to be talking about Walrein, which is a pretty fun Pokemon that's actually received some really important buffs this generation. I mean, it's not made it into an incredibly powerful Pokemon, but it's really changed what it can do. So it's gone from doing certain things to being a completely different Pokemon this generation, which I think is really interesting to talk about. So we can definitely do that. While you're here, I hope you enjoy the video. If you do enjoy the video, consider leaving a like. And if you enjoy Walrein, definitely check out Joey's channel as well, because we're doing a video on his channel too, where we'll be using it on the ladder, which will be really fun. But I thought on this video we would talk more just about the potential for Walrein and how you can use it, going through the buffs that it's received and what sets you can now use, because as I say, it's really different to previous generations. And I think that the first thing that I really want to talk about is going to be the physical Walrein sets, because there have been so many changes here. So Joey, do you want to start leading this conversation about the first set?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, Walrein got some pretty big buffs this generation. I guess we'll go in order that Shodan actually shows you. But first off, its ability Oblivious is now buffed to block Intimidate. That's pretty cool considering it's in a tier where Mawile is the, the most used Intimidator. And obviously, if you're thinking on Battle Stadium or VGC, Landorus and Incineroar won't be able to intimidate you. So that's a pretty big one. Obviously, of course, Walrein also has Swords Dance now, and it's able to abuse its new Liquidation. I believe Icicle Spear is new too, right?
Yeah, both Liquidation and Icicle Spear are new, which is pretty cool. Yeah, gives it a lot more options.
Yeah, exactly. And round that up with Earthquake, and you have some really solid coverage with Water, Ice, and Ground. This makes Walrein a little bit of a threat, which is slightly more than you could say before about Walrein itself. And of course, Heavy Duty Boots being an option, an item now, also helps deal with that ice type weakness to Stealth Rock. So the first set we have here is a Swords Dance offensive Life Orb Walrein with Swords Dance, Liquidation, Icicle Spear, and Earthquake. Of course, if you actually look at the ZU tier, you have a lot of Pokemon like Manectric, Licky Licky, Mawile being there, so that's why Earthquake is really good. And then you have the Ice Stab for Pokemon like Gourgeist, and it's just strong stab in general. I love Icicle Spear because it can't miss, and even though the it's iffy about the base power, I still would rather have that over Icicle Crash. Just because, I mean, I'm using a Walrein, so I have very limited opportunities, I feel, to get it to sweep, and I much rather hit. And then Earthquake is such good coverage, too, because not only does it hit Mawile, but if you take it up a little bit, being able to hit something like a Toxapex for super effective, or even if you're Dynamaxing and you're buffing its special defense stat, that's really nice because Walrein has an insane HP stat at base 110, and really respectable defenses at base 90 each. So this can make Walrein very, very bulky on those sides, and getting up the max Hailstorm as well, even getting up the max Geyser to boost your own stab moves. So I'm actually excited for when we use this Pokemon on my channel as well.
Yeah, I think that sums it up really well, that actually most of what we're looking at with this set, Walrein couldn't do at all in the previous generation. I mean, it did have Waterfall instead of Liquidation, but it had no good physical Ice Stab at all. It doesn't get... I mean, it gets Ice Fang. I think that's the alternative, which
that's not a good move.
Dodgy accuracy.
Yeah,
it's just bad.
Yeah.
It's just really bad. And so Icicle Spear at least has the potential to do a ton of damage. I mean, most of the time you'll be doing kind of decent damage, but it always hits, which is useful.
Breaks sub in disguise as well. If we're talking about Battle Stadium, Mimic Use Disguise gets busted on the first one, so you can hit it with the second one, get 4 hits, maybe knock it out, type of thing. So I think that's a pretty big thing.
After an SD, you might be taking things out from Focus Sash as well. If you can one-hit KO something with a Walrein, that always is fun.
Hey,
so.
I remember this Pokemon using Earthquake and Pokemon XD Gale Darkness all the time. I mean, that one was a threat.
Yeah. So yeah, and the big one, I think the big game changer is Sword Stance because it didn't have that before. So like having that immediate chance to set up to +2 is huge. And as Joey said, the Oblivious is really cool in the VGC and doubles format where you're blocking the Intimidates. It's really fun once you get the Sword Stance up. Basically, your attack won't be getting dropped. So that's really neat and really changes Walrein. I think it's important to note as well that as a water ice type, it does have a lot of competition from other Pokemon, and there are things like Lapras that maybe you compare it to. But with a physical set, obviously you're not really emulating Lapras there. Generally, Lapras is special because it does get the freeze dry move, and it gets other good special coverage like Thunderbolts and such. So you generally see more special Lapras than physical Lapras. So this just differentiates it a bit more, and so they're not directly competing so much. Lapras doesn't have a way to get to +2 attack in one turn, aside from, I guess, weakness policy.
Yeah, and I was about to add that, like, yeah, even just to add, like, even, like, the more used Ice Water Cloyster is different. Like, obviously, Shell Smash is different than Swords Dance, but having access to Earthquake is a big thing. Like, Cloyster, even with Dynamax, might find itself losing to Toxapex with Haze more often than not. Unless it has like Explosion or anything like that. But Walrein can actually break through something like that, and then also have some good natural bulk, which is something that Cloyster, while it does have the good defense, it doesn't have the good HP and the good special defense. You knock that thing out with like, a Gust coming off of a Pidgey at -1.
For
so
sure.
yeah, this mon, it definitely differentiates itself from that for sure, and of course from Dugong as well, which can't do anything.
Yeah, poor Dugong. Maybe next gen, we'll see. But that's kind of this set I think we've talked about. So it's like the physical set is really the massive change for Walrein, because though it's only got base 80 attack, having the Sword Stance there and having the bulk to be able to set that up is huge. So that's really the big change for Walrein, I'd say. But we can move on to like another set that I want to talk about, because it also has received a buff. And this is something that you might have seen like similar to previous generations, where Walrein was generally more a special attacker. Obviously, its special attack is higher, so that's great. The issue for Walrein is it doesn't have massive coverage on the special side. So you've got the water and the ice type, but it doesn't get freeze dry, so you can't really hit water types very well. So that's always been a bit of an issue, but still, it would probably be the preferred set. Now it actually gets Hydro Pump, which it never got before. So that's really nice, just to have a more powerful special attack. With base 95 special attack and a choice specs, that's actually going to do some damage, especially when there are things that can quite easily switch into water and ice type in water types. If you're hitting them for a lot of damage with the Hydro Pump, then that's pretty good. And that's one way to really deal some damage. So yeah, I think that's quite, it's worth noting for Walrein. It is definitely a buff here, though the special set's maybe not as good this gen. It's still something to note.
Base 95 special attack is nothing to scoff at. Even resistances will be taking around 30% probably from a Hydro Pump. I think the big thing is that they didn't give it freeze dry for whatever reason, so it actually can't touch its, water type brethren, if you want to say that, or so it does throw it off in a bit. But you did mention Hyper Beam, which could also become a max move, which could be different. I also wanted to throw in, if you're using it in Battle Stadium, Sheer Cold is an option too, to be able to deal with Toxapex, because you are, Toxapex is going to take very many turns to knock you out, so you have at least 8 chances to hit that, if that is allowed where you're playing. But I think Ice and Water is such good coverage. It just needs that third option, Like if it was Freeze Dry plus Hydro Pump, incredible, because you basically have everything that you need to. You have the water for all, obviously what you hit super effectively, and then neutral on like steals and stuff like that. And then Freeze Dry would not only give you the good coverage versus the dragons and the grass, but also opposing water types as well. So it just really is just barely missing out on that. But I do like the Hyper Beam option, especially like on a max one, especially because you can max strike them and lower their speed too, which sounds very fun. Imagine outspeeding something with a Walrein, which it's base 65 speed, so it's actually faster than you might have expected, considering it looks like it moves like a slug.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's faster than a lot of walls actually. So you could invest in the speed there. Another a couple of other options you can consider on the spec set are things that maybe you can't use online in game because of that you're not able to get these moves in Pokemon Sword and Shield. But in previous generations, Walrein could learn Toxic, which can be helpful for catching switch-ins,
Yeah.
but also Super Fang, which I don't understand why it doesn't learn it now, because those are some pretty super fangs I can see right there.
They've been worn down over the years.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But that's a great option for like just immediately taking an opponent down to 50%, so that next time they switch in, it might be a 2-hit KO. So I think that Super Fang, if you can use it in the format that you're playing, is another great option for the Choice Spec set. So yeah, I think all around the spec set is still one to consider, depending on what your team structure is and whether you want to use this. But still, I think the physical set is definitely winning out this generation, but still one to note.
And again, just to add like a few more pros to the special set, like you're able to deal with physical walls like Avalugg and Mawa in their tier. And while again, Lapras is heavy competition for it, Walrein is faster than Lapras. And that makes a difference in terms of like a plus speed Mawa or a plus speed Buffalo, because again, like you're able to get off those Hydro Pumps. That's a big thing, like for Pokemon, right? Like especially like Pokemon like this that don't have the most coverage. The thing they want to be able to do is get off their attack. So like if you want a special wall breaker, you want to use something cool like Walrein, yeah, go for it, because you'll be able to break through those physical walls in the ZU tier.
So let's move on to the next set that I want to look at now, which is the next sets, which are going to be more like bulky wall sets. And I wanted to first talk about Walrein history, because this Pokemon used to be used in OU quite regularly as Stallrain. And this is harking back quite a long time now, back to Generation 5, when it was set by like snow warning or drought or drizzle, it would be there until it was counteracted by another weather. It didn't just last the 5 turns. And that meant that Walrein, with Ice Body and Leftovers, would be healing a ton of health each turn. It had massive bulk, especially if you ran it either physically or specially defensive. It could take so many hits. And so this Substitute Protect Toxic set was really common on Hail teams and was a real pain to take down. Now, since its heyday, and since Hail lasting permanently with those abilities, it's obviously not really seen any use, because it's just not as viable anymore without that ridiculous recovery every turn, because Hail ends so early. Like it's just not a viable option anymore. However, I think that there are still some bulky Walrein sets that can be very good now and can be really fun to use. So let's move on to a curse set. Do you want to talk about the curse set?
Yeah, I actually wanted to just say one thing real quick about Stallrain as well, because like, you mentioned Gen 5, but Gen 4 I think is where it really saw like where it really saw like its annoyance in Hail, because Gen 5 obviously had more Pokemon that could do weather. So obviously you're facing competition from Drought Ninetales, Drizzle, Politoed, but in Gen 4 there's a few, right? There's Tyranitar, and you're done. You're done. Like Tyranitar and Abomasnow. That's it. That was basically it back there. Because Drought and Drizzle were stuck on Kyogre and Groudon, which were not Pokemon that you see in the tier. So Stallrain actually ran like Protect, Sub, Toxic, like you see there, and then either Surf or Blizzard, because it would be on Perma-Hail. And you see teams like, it'd usually be Abomasnow, Walrein, Tentacruel, because you need your Infernape / Heatran check, your own Heatran, because yeah, you need a better steel, a good steel with that. Maybe a Rotom form. Sometimes you see the occasional Rotom Frost that could click Blizzard and Thunderbolt around. Have 100% accurate Blizzards. And then your last mon could be whatever. It could be Dugtrio to trap Tyranitar. It could be Jirachi. I've even seen some variations with Infernape and even Dragonite to abuse it. And this was such an annoying Pokemon because, again, while it was good in Gen 5, especially like, I would say like lower tiers too, Gen 4, it could take its place in OU and actually successfully suffer 32 turns of Hail with Protect and Sub, and then Ice Body healing it off. So it might not be the best in current Gen 4, just because they recently banned Arena Trap. So, not being able to deal with that. And then Clefable actually is OU by usage, but not OU in the tier. But back then, oh my god, I remember fighting this thing and just, I hate it. Like, you want to tear out your hair, especially if your Tyranitar is gone, because you couldn't beat it. Like, it stalled you out. And especially where you're playing on your DS and the timer is so slow, right? When you get hit by Hail. Like, you've seen the memes of Blissey going down from its full HP to like 0. You've seen them. But yeah, so it's cool to think of. I love the throwback because it just brings back so many good memories, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not quite that successful now, but we've got some interesting, bulky sets that we can talk about. So, yeah, the first one is like a curse set, which is using Walrein's huge bulk, and we can make it really specially defensive because when you use curse, you're boosting up your attack and your defense while dropping your speed. Now, we've said that Walrein has decent speed stat, but really, it doesn't matter if you drop that speed because getting the attack boost and also the defense boost is very, very good. It makes this Pokemon really hard to take down with that high physical bulk, and with your special defense investment, it will be super bulky. And you now have Icicle Spear as a physical move to use, which nothing is immune to, which is nice because you could use Waterfall before, but there are Pokemon with abilities that make them immune to Waterfall, so you can't really just outright sweep teams with those water immunities on them. Whereas nothing is immune to Icicle Spear. Now, Icicle Spear, it's got that shaky damage, and without attack investment, you'll need quite a few curses to be able to do a ton of damage. But yeah, with the Rest Talk set, there is the potential just to set up and your opponent might not be able to do anything about it if you're lucky.
Yeah. I also wanted to note that if you wanted a slash, maybe with Sleep Talk, you could slash Body Press as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted a means of dealing with opposing ice types and like Avalugg and still hitting Steel. So if you do, like, I think Rest Talk is fine because, again, like you mentioned, ice is coverage that is not able to be avoided, right? Like you can't, there's no immunity to it. But I should enjoy whatever. But if you could potentially slash Body Press, that'll give you Lapras, that'll give you Avalugg. That'll give you good stuff versus good damage versus normal types like Licky Licky and potentially steel types as well. So it is an option, but of course, you probably want either Cleric with it or heavy support to deal with Pokemon that can take advantage of a Walrein being asleep. But abusing the base 110 HP, the 90 base special defense, and of course the thick fat, making you be able to eat the fire types from the tier as well as opposing ice types, and then you have your natural bulk as well. Like, it's a lot that Walrein can do. So this would be a fun set to try out as well. I would like something like this with maybe like a Parish Song trapping type of thing for maybe bulky waters or certain things.
Yeah.
Like, I would actually pair this with a Lapras. Like, I would try them both on a team and see if I could do it, see if I could trap them.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a really good point. And Joey alluded to Body Press being an option, which is another thing that I want to talk about. So if we move on to the next set, which is like a more defensive set. Body Press is really interesting because it actually has great coverage with ice type moves. Fighting and ice are great when combined. And with a defensive set for Walrein, it does have a really nice 90 defense stat. So we've been talking about physical sets and we're using its 80 defense stat. 80 attack stat, sorry. Its 90 defense stat is higher. So with that Body Press, it will actually be doing decent damage. Now, on this set that I'm showing you now, it's like a defensive set with Body Press as your damage option. But it also shows another new thing that Walrein can do, which is Whirlpool, as well as like having Protect and Yawn. You can maybe trap stuff in, put them to sleep, and then try to Body Press them to death, which is a very fun image in my head. But yeah, I think that this is just this jet set I put in really just to show you like that Walrein can Body Press now, and physically bulky sets can use that. But I think you're right, Joey, in that having it on the curse set where you're boosting your defense as well is actually a really good option too. So that's definitely something to consider.
Yeah, and I mean, you're reminding me of, like, again, going back to XD Gale Darkness, feel like rolling while it's attacking and stuff like that. I'm just thinking about Walrein jumping in the air and just slamming on you. Honestly, it should have, Thick Fat I think should have a secondary buff. I know this is what the video is about, but like, it should make body type attacks stronger. Like,
like body slam and
stuff. Yeah. Like, not necessarily like obviously weight, but like, I mean, this is a big Pokemon, and Thick Fat give you some extra blubber. Like, it should be something like that. I don't know. I feel that, but I do like the Yawn Body Press Whirlpool set. I love Yawn plus Protect as well. It kills momentum from things trying to go for Volt Switch. So like if a Rotom came in for you, an example, in Battle Stadium or wherever you're using Walrein, and you Yawn, obviously I'm like, okay, cool, I'll just Volt Switch. Like, it's free damage and I get out there. I go for Protect, they're trapped, right? So that's a different type of trapping like that. And obviously, Whirlpool can stop somebody from hard switching as well. So this is really cool too because you put something to sleep, you can set it up with a Shell Smasher or a Swords Dance or a Dragon Dance user next to it. You get a free turn to set up. So I really like this, and I think it's unique for Walrein as well. Like it's something that Walrein can do that Lapras doesn't do as well. Like Lapras can trap and Perish Song, but that's about it. No, not yawning, and I like that.
So yeah, and the last set I wanted to show you was really just throwing on some of the utility things that Walrein can do to show the heavy duty boots set. Again, Joey's mentioned this before. Heavy duty boots will be a really big thing for Walrein in any format where hazards are relevant, because it does have that weakness to hazards, and being a bulky Pokemon that's weak to hazards was really quite a death sentence in previous generations. So now being able to prevent that damage is really great. So you can have like those consistent Super Fangs or just toxicking your enemy, and having all that damage, like passive over time damage going on, is very valuable, and this thing can really support your team. So it doesn't have to be an offensive Pokemon like we talked about towards the beginning of the video. It can be like a much more utility Pokemon that sticks around and just annoys your opponent for turns and turns and turns, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I like it. I like the idea of, I think just again, statusing those walls, even like something like Mawile that might want to come in on you, you get the half off. A lot of Pokemon that can take hits from you don't have recoverable, like good recovery, right? Like again, Mawile is the big one that comes to mind, and opposing Pokemon like Lapras as well, and just being able to again wear down anything, it just makes such a huge deal for its viability. Like this might even be better than its offensive sets, just because it's actually consistently getting damage off on something, whereas with the offensive sets, you have to worry about, okay, if I go for an ice move, they'll bring out a steel type, or if I go for a water move, they have a water absorber type of thing. So Super Fang is a really nice plus, and I think Super Fang, Toxic, and Body Press is pretty big. And like you mentioned, this is obviously something you can only use in a format that is not online, right? Because obviously some of these moves are gone for one reason or another. I don't know why they didn't allow Toxic, but maybe they didn't want certain things to be broken with it. I could think of a few OU Pokemon that might be broken with Toxic if they had it. So I like this set. I think it takes advantage of the heavy duty boots the most, and I think you could slash heavy duty boots on Swords Dance sets as well. But you might want the damage output, considering Walrein doesn't have the strongest attack, though it is easily passable. So yeah.
And I think that's pretty much our comprehensive review of Walrein this generation, which is a really different Pokemon to how it's been in previous generations. It has loads of interesting tricks for offensive sets, but also a lot of utility there as well. So thank you very much for discussing that with me, Joey, and definitely go over to his channel, because we'll be using some of the more offensive sets, I think, on the ladder in ZU, which will be really fun to do. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hope you guys all enjoyed. And this is why you should use Walrein.
Yeah, this is why you should use Walrein. All right. All those episodes said is, I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.